Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Engine Middlegames series. Pardon me, I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we are, well, carrying on our series of looking at the CCC 21 Rapid Challenger match between Leela-Zero and Torch. Occasionally you come across an engine game where you think, wow, this is too bizarre for words, such strange things have happened. But you put it onto the engines and they just yawn and say draw, 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 draw. And well, this has kind of happened with this game because I gave it to Dragon 3.3 and Stockfish, and they made 62 draws out of 62 in the games that I made them play. So, well, in those cases, you know, it's not so much about the result, it's more just about enjoying the ride, and that's what we're going to do. So this is the position. It was actually in game one of this match, Leela against Torch. And, well, I mean, looking at the position, there is something rather odd that I'm sure you'll notice. It's the fact that the black queen is on a7. This was a Scandinavian opening, and well, the queen got rather chased around and pushed round to a7. And well, at first sight, you'd think this would be a rather large advantage for white. That was my assumption at any rate. The only problem is that, you know, the big break that white can play really is to play c4 to c5. But this is not easy to achieve really because, well, d5 is very, very weak. And, well, once d5 becomes weak, the light squares are weak and, well, this diagonal is weak. And, I mean, after all, the white king is not completely safe. We've got a cheap pawn on g6 and a pawn on h4. So that, you know, rather complicates matters. And it's actually not that easy for white to make progress. And what you see in the next few moves is that Torch actually gets its queen out of trouble. King a8, queen d2, bishop b7, good move. Now with c4 to c5, yeah, you're going to have rook d5, bishop d5, getting ready for counterplay. Rook a2, queen b8, rook c1, rook h6, hitting that one. Rook g1, queen c8, and you know, it seems like black's making a fair amount of progress and white isn't actually doing very much. King h2, rook d7, the queen might even come to e8, attacking the g6 pawn. Rook c2 and queen d8, and yeah, I mean, I was, you know, playing through this game and thinking, well, I don't know. I mean, I thought that white was much better with that black queen on a7, but actually, because white hasn't really been able to achieve this c5 break, black's position now is looking quite reasonable. All sorts of things are happening, you know, and this g6 pawn looks weak. The white king's looking a little bit unstable. What is white going to do? Well, all the engines have the same solution as Leela did, and that's to play the move knight ec5. So actually, white's not going to play c4 to c5 to break open the black queen side. White's just going to sacrifice a piece for it. So, okay, black took on c5, knight takes c5, bc5, bishop c5, king b8 getting out of the way, queen a5, and now king c8. The black king is running away. What has white got for the piece? Well, actually, nothing really immediate somehow. You don't really have the right pieces with white to really break open the black king's position. I mean, if you had a knight, you could have it on c5 and then you'd attack b7, you'd bring the queen into a7. Dark square bishop is kind of the worst piece that you could have. But what white does have is the possibility of playing, you know, moves like a5 to a6 and then maybe getting b6. Obviously you can't really advance the c pawn because then d5 would hang. So it's really about advancing the a and the b pawns. Question is, how do you want to do this? Do you want to play the queen into a7 and you know, move the pawn up, or do you want to move the queen back somewhere, maybe to defend h4, and then move the pawns after? Obviously, the first one you're really trying to be as fast as possible. The second one you're being a bit slower, but it's maybe not clear what counterplay black actually has. Well, if you go queen a7, there were some quite amazing lines here. Knight takes h4, rook g3, rook takes g6, takes, king h3, and now queen e8 attacking the rook on g6. And after rook g2, actually you've kind of blocked in your king a little bit with your own rook there. And so the engines were analysing this line, takes queen d7 and queen d5. And after rook g7, knight g5, and I mean, it's absolutely bananas, basically. I mean, the black king is kind of safe. Everything's sort of covered and protected. And the white king's in trouble here, and you've got, queen f3 and all this stuff. Well, I mean, the way that the engines were analysing it was, we've got to escape by running forwards. It's really like shogi, where your king has to run to the other side, and then it's absolutely safe. It's not quite that bad in chess, but it's similar somehow. I think this was Stockfish's line. Knight e4, queen d1, check, 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 and the engines were seeing a draw there. Yeah, I mean, totally, utterly bananas, basically. You just can't make it up. So that was basically, if white tries to go into the queen side and move the pawns up, well, we've got plenty of counterplay. We start chipping away at the white king side, and yeah, I mean, moves like rook d5 followed by queen d5 are always going to be dangerous. I mean, I think that's the conclusion. So queen e1 was played by Leela, defending the h4 pawn, so stopping any counterplay like that, and we're just going to get ready to play a5 to a6. Knight d4 played by Torch, well, same idea, threatening knight takes f3, and then rook c3. And now, I mean, there's many branches here. I mean, the amazing thing, of course, is that for the engines, there's many ways to equality simply. Torch played king b8, just keeping some tension in the position. My engines were also looking at the immediate sacrifice, taking on here, takes, rook takes. And I mean, this breaks open the position and gets the rooks active. I mean, I was looking at b6 and I was rather confused because, after all, isn't this rather a big threat? But for the engines, not particularly. They were looking at rook check, takes, rook check, king h1, and then queen d4, king b8. And I mean, white's got that rook on c7 and he's got two passed pawns, but you've also got lots of threats against the white king here. And, well, I mean, there were several ways of doing it. Queen b2, threatening here. And if queen f1, queen d4, threatening queen h4 check. Or you could go and play a move like queen d3, threatening queen f3. And after rook c3, you've got queen f5, f4, queen d7. And we're looking at all sorts of possibilities of checking here. It's a total mess, basically. The engines can put it to a draw, but we'll rather struggle. I did rather like this line: king h2, rook g4, a6. Look at those guys go! I mean, really. Rook takes h4, queen d2, king g1 takes, a7 check, and now what does white play? Queen h1 check. That's the one, forcing the second queen. But here we've got queen e3, and this is actually a draw. No escape here for the white king. Yeah, I mean, crazy lines, completely crazy lines. But I mean, I think the general thing that you're sort of taking away from all these lines is that the white king is kind of as exposed as the black king, really. And once you blast open the centre and get the queen and the rooks going, yeah, this king with very little pawn cover is in a bit of trouble. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to guess really, because well, I've got this rook on h6, which is kind of doing something, but kind of not. It could just end up being completely out of play. But apparently it's not. Apparently it's in good shape. But Torch played king b8, just getting out of the way of any of these b6 threats with the pin along the c file. It's very sensible. Rook d3 was played by Leela. Actually, against any move that white plays, black is going to do the following move, which is not yet, but black is eventually going to sacrifice on d5. So f5 played by Torch. This is quite cunning, actually. It's opening up the line of the queen on the h4 pawn, so it's keeping that little queen honest as well. a5, rook h8, bringing the rook back into play, waiting until bishop takes d5 until the last moment. But after rook g2 from Leela, yeah, this rook now is able to swing over here. So we're going to start looking for a6 and b6 threats. So bishop takes d5 is played. Takes and rook takes. And yeah, I mean, again, you know, it's a very mixed bag, really. I mean, black's king isn't great. These pawns are coming down. But on the other hand, the h4 pawn is weak. So, yeah, you know, for example, the white queen is tied down to its defense. So bishop d4 was played, e takes d4, and then b6, trying to blast open the queen side like that. But it's not that easy to get past. C takes b6 played, and well, I mean, you're threatening rook takes a5 or b5 here. You know, you can block up. So a takes b6 was played, and now rook e8, just attacking the queen. And well, you know, it's a little bit tricky for white because you can't move the queen over to the queen side like as you'd want to because of queen h4 check and rook e1. A move like queen g3, we play queen d6, just exchanging off queens, and there's nothing wrong with black's position. So rook e2 was played, takes, check, king g2, queen g5, king f1, and queen c1 check, and rook d1. And well, you know, white's dealt with the initial checks there, and we've got moves like queen e8 or queen h2 check, and suddenly it's the black king that's feeling the pressure. But black's got one very good move here, which is queen c6, and this is dealing with everything really. It's covering the e8 square, and it's also, yeah, you know, covering any sort of checks, also keeping control of the c7 square. Queen a2 was played by Leela, looking for queen a7, but now an excellent move from Torch, rook d7. And we're covering the a7 square, and we're also opening up the line of the queen on f3. And well, you're starting to see that black's, you know, getting some control now. I mean, black's got control of all the queenside squares here. Counterplay coming against the king side. So Leela played queen g8, king b7, and rook a1. So looking for queen a8 check, and basically forcing black to give a perpetual check with queen e3, king g2, queen e2. And for me as a watcher, you know, it's just an amazing end and incredible tactics. For the engines, it's just yawn was a draw all the time. Didn't you know that? But yeah, I enjoyed that game very, very much. And well, you know, first game in the match, it sort of set the tone for what the rest would be. Just some stunning, amazing games. But I thought it was, you know, what I really was interested about was, you know, this position seemed so difficult for black with an offside queen on a7. I mean, we talked about it in Game Changer, you know, just an offside queen. AlphaZero was often giving Stockfish an offside queen and then exploiting, you know, the well, the effect that had on the rest of the position. But somehow in this game, you know, Torch understood pretty well that, you know, white didn't really have any breaks and that black had plenty of time to bring the queen back into the fold. And, well, I think, you know, obviously the white king side, which had got weakened in the course of the game, you know, played a big role in that as well, because, yeah, very risky to play any moves like that. I mean, the other thing I really liked about the game was just that, you know, when knight c5 happened, I sort of raised my eyebrows. I thought it was quite interesting as well that, you know, you get this sort of position. It looks really dangerous for black, but not having the right minor piece to attack the opponent's king's position, you know, really, yeah, really makes a big difference, you know, and yeah, just interesting to see that happen. And then finally, yeah, I mean, one thing that, you know, the engine's always very concrete about this. You know, humans do find it difficult sometimes to, you sort of think, well, I'm a whole piece up here. Should I really give one back, you know, sacrificing on d5? But the engine's, you know, just very, yeah, obviously very concrete, very emotionless about all this. And, yeah, just taking on d5, you know, gives black plenty of counterplay and, well, leads to, yeah, an interesting draw. So there we are. Hope you enjoyed that one. If you enjoyed it, give a like, subscribe to the channel. You know you want to. Take a look at my new books. Really good they are. And otherwise, keep tuned, keep looking out on this channel, because I've got loads more games from here, the CCCC, and also from the TCC as well to come. Thanks for watching.